Imagine you're walking through a dense jungle where nature thrives in its rawest and most dangerous form, and suddenly you spot a king cobra slithering through the underbrush, its hood raised, eyes locked on something ahead, and then you realize what it's after, another venomous snake, maybe a Russell's viper or a kite, and a question immediately sparks in your mind. What happens if one venomous snake actually bites another? Does the venom work the same way? Do they die instantly? Or are snakes somehow immune to their own kind? And the answer is both fascinating and far more complex than most people realize, because snake venom isn't just one universal toxin. It's a chemical cocktail evolved over millions of years with a specific purpose: to immobilize and kill prey efficiently while also deterring predators. Yet every venomous snake species has developed its own unique blend of proteins, enzymes, and toxins, some targeting the nervous system, others breaking down tissue, others preventing blood from clotting. So the outcome of one snake biting another depends on many different variables: the species involved, the type of venom, the size of the snakes, where the bite lands, and whether or not evolution has granted any resistance. And to understand this, we first need to break down what venom really does, because most people imagine venom as some kind of universal poison, but that's not the case. Venom is highly specialized. For instance, elapids like cobras, krites, and mambas primarily use neurotoxic venom, which shuts down communication between nerves and muscles, leading to paralysis and eventually suffocation, while vipers such as rattlesnakes and Russell's vipers rely more on hemotoxic venom, which destroys blood cells, damages tissues, and causes massive internal bleeding. And then you have snakes like boomslangs that use anticoagulant venom, which prevents blood clotting. So in essence, every venom is a weapon fine-tuned for specific ecological purposes. Now imagine what happens when snake A injects its venom into snake B. The results aren't as straightforward as in prey animals, because some snakes do have a degree of resistance to their own venom or even to the venom of closely related species. For example, king cobras, which primarily eat other snakes, including other venomous ones, show a remarkable tolerance to venom that would kill most animals in minutes, and this makes sense from an evolutionary standpoint, because if your diet consists of venomous snakes, you either develop resistance or you die trying, and studies have shown that king cobras can consume vipers and krites without suffering the lethal effect of their venom. But does this mean all venomous snakes are immune to each other? Absolutely not, because immunity is not universal. Some snakes are resistant to their own venom, but not others. For instance, rattlesnakes are immune to their own venom, but can still be fatally affected if bitten by another rattlesnake of a different species, and there are even documented cases where venomous snakes kill each other in fights. So the idea that snakes are somehow universally resistant is a myth. Instead, the truth is more like an evolutionary arms race, where some species gain partial resistance while others don't, depending on their survival strategies. So let's break down some possible scenarios. If a cobra bites another cobra, depending on the size, age, and health of the victim, the venom may still work, but not as quickly or lethally as it would on a rat or a frog, because cobras have some level of tolerance, but that tolerance doesn't make them invincible. And if the bite is severe and delivers a large amount of venom, it can still cause damage or even kill, especially if it penetrates vital areas like the head or neck. Now, if a viper bites another viper, things get nastier because hemotoxic venom is designed to destroy tissues and blood vessels, and snakes, despite their adaptations, are still made of tissues and blood. So even with some resistance, a deep envenomation can cause necrosis, internal bleeding, and eventually death. And indeed, herpetologists have observed vipers dying from bites inflicted during territorial fights, which shows that their venom is still effective against their own kind. Then there's a case of snakes that actively prey on other venomous snakes, like the king cobra, muscaranas from South America, and certain king snakes, which have evolved not just resistance, but sometimes near immunity. Muscaranas, for example, are almost completely immune to pit viper venom, allowing them to hunt and consume rattlesnakes with no problem. But their immunity is highly specific, meaning they are resistant to certain venoms but not others. So if bitten by an African cobra, they may still suffer, which again proves that snake immunity is not universal. Now let's address the cinematic what-if. Two different venomous snakes, say a cobra and a viper, get into a fight and one bites the other. In most real-world cases, the bitten snake will be affected because cross-species venom resistance is rare, and depending on the dose and site of the bite, it could die. Though not necessarily instantly, it might take hours, sometimes days, just like venom works in larger prey. Because snakes don't always pump out their full venom load with every bite. Sometimes it's a dry bite, where no venom is injected. Other times it's a defensive strike with a smaller amount, and in rare cases it's a full envenomation. So the outcome can vary wildly. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. Snakes themselves don't rely only on venom to fight each other. Many snake battles are actually physical struggles involving constriction, strength, and dominance, with venom being more of a last resort, because even snakes seem to know that wasting venom on another snake might not guarantee survival, and venom is metabolically expensive to produce. So they save it for hunting prey, but when the stakes are life or death, a snake won't hesitate to use it. So, to answer the question directly, if a venomous snake bites another venomous snake, the result depends entirely on the combination. Some snakes like king cobras and muscaranas will shrug it off because of specialized resistance. Some will suffer severe tissue damage or paralysis and die. And some might survive depending on the bite location and venom dosage. And even within the same species, outcomes vary because individual resistance isn't always identical. Now you might be wondering, why doesn't evolution just make all snakes immune to all venom? The answer lies in trade-offs. Because building resistance isn't free. It requires specific proteins in the bloodstream that neutralize toxins, and those proteins come at an energetic cost. Plus, they might interfere with other biological processes. So evolution tends to grant resistance only when it's truly necessary for survival, like when a snake eats other venomous snakes as a main food source, which is why king cobras, muscaranas, and king snakes have it, but rattlesnakes, which primarily eat mammals, birds, and lizards, don't need to invest in broad-spectrum immunity because it doesn't help them survive. In fact, there's an ongoing evolutionary venom resistance arms race between snakes and their prey too. For example, some ground squirrels and mongooses have partial resistance to snake venom, forcing snakes to keep evolving stronger venoms to overcome it. So nature is constantly balancing attack and defense, predator and prey, toxin and antitoxin. Now let's circle back to our jungle scenario, the king cobra. And the Russell's viper face-off. The cobra strikes, injecting neurotoxic venom into the viper's bloodstream. The viper thrashes. Its muscle seizing as paralysis begins, and within hours the viper succumbs, while the cobra calmly swallows its prey whole, completely unaffected. Why? Because it has evolved precisely for this situation. But flip the scenario. Let's say the viper strikes first and injects hemotoxic venom into the cobra. Would the cobra die? Possibly yes, if the dose is high and the strike is well placed. Though cobras may still have partial resistance, the hemotoxic effect can overwhelm them, showing that even a king cobra isn't invincible. So the conclusion is clear. Snake-on-snake venom battles are real, and they are deadly, but they don't follow a simple rule of immune or not. Instead, they unfold on a spectrum of resistance, chance, and biology. And this makes a natural world far more unpredictable and dramatic than most people think. And next time you hear the question, what if a venomous snake bites another venomous snake? You will know that the answer isn't a simple yes or no. It's a story of evolution, survival, and one of the most dangerous rivalries in the animal kingdom. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.